The sanguine reign, a daughter's legacy, the world believed him gone, a myth relegated to dusty tomes and silver screens. They celebrated, perhaps, the vanquishing of a primal fear. But I, his truest heir, felt the tremor of his passing not as liberation, but as a profound, chilling void, and a sudden, immense weight. He had been the anchor, the ancient root of our bloodline, and now that mantle, heavy with centuries of ambition and shadow, fell to me. Unlike Maria Zaleska, the countess who, in some tales, sought desperately to break free from the curse of vamp, even burning her father's body in a futile hope for normalcy, I felt only the tightening grip of destiny. My path was not one of escape, but of profound obligation, a duty to continue what he had begun, to elevate our kind beyond mere survival. This fundamental difference in my nature, a stark contrast to those who might shun the vampiric existence, set the stage for the true continuation of the Dracula legacy. It was clear that my role was to embrace the inherent power and purpose of my bloodline, not to deny it. The state of our kind at that juncture was precarious, a shadow of its potential. The scattered bloodlines, often consumed by internecine conflict, sought only to eliminate one another rather than unite against the true existential threat. The Stoker model of unchecked feeding, where each bite could create another mouth to feed, had led us to the brink of self-destruction. Uncontrolled predation meant that 80% of the human population could vanish within a mere 165 days, leading inevitably to our own starvation. This was not a legacy. It was a death spiral. The Transylvanian problem of renewable resources loomed large. A finite planet, a growing thirst, and a dwindling supply. Coexistence, as some foolishly dreamed, was a scientific impossibility, a notion quickly disproven by the stark mathematics of our consumption. This looming crisis of sustenance became the primary driver for my actions, transforming my monstrous intent into a pragmatic, albeit terrifying, imperative for the survival of my species. It was a calculated response to an ecological limit, a cold, hard truth that demanded a radical solution. I am not merely his daughter by blood, but by spirit. The ambition, adventurousness, and martial valor that defined his ancestors, and indeed, his very being, coursed through my own veins, amplified. My nature was my strength, a destiny to be embraced. My powers, inherited from the progenitor of our bloodline, extended far beyond mere strength and speed. One possessed the chilling ability to perceive shatterpoints, weaknesses in events, objects, and even the minds of men, granting me a strategic clairvoyance that few could comprehend. My mesmerism, far more potent than a simple jeweled ring that merely captivated, could weave intricate illusions, induce debilitating fear or psychosis, and twist desires to my will. This allowed me to control actions, alter memories, and force others to act not of their own volition. And like Lilith, another powerful interpretation of Dracula's daughter, I could possess mortal forms. Walking in daylight, immune to the petty charms of holy relics, moving unseen among the unseen. My very existence was a testament to the enduring power of the old centuries, which mere modernity cannot kill. A living embodiment of ancient might, adapted for a new age. These amplified and unique capabilities were not just personal strengths. They were critical for my success against the myriad modern threats and for achieving the global control necessary to secure our future. The calculus of survival, a new world order, the era of the solitary predator, the hidden coven, was over. The Stoker model of haphazard feeding was a death sentence, a path to mutual annihilation for both human and vampire. To survive, we needed to evolve from mere hunters to meticulous shepherds, from reckless consumers to strategic cultivators. It was a renewable resource, a living reservoir to be managed with cold, scientific precision. This was not cruelty for its own sake, but the grim calculus of survival for my kind. The problem of modernity was not that it could kill us, but that it offered the very tools for our ultimate dominion. A means to achieve what raw power alone could not. This strategic imperative, born of necessity, transformed the very nature of our existence, shifting from unsustainable predation to systematic resource management. My vision was not of scattered victims, but of a global farm. Inspired by the chilling efficiency of fictional concepts like the vampiric corporation Bromley Marx, which sought to capture and farm humans. And the farm, where teens are farmed as food, I envisioned vast, controlled reserves of humanity. These would not be crude slaughterhouses, but meticulously managed ecosystems. Electronic chips embedded beneath their skin would track every heartbeat, every hormonal cycle, ensuring optimal production. Certain hormonally ripe teens would be prioritized for their potent V, while others would serve as breeders to ensure the continuous replenishment of our living larder. This was the human harvest protocol, a chillingly efficient solution to our sustenance crisis. This detailed conceptualization of human farming, drawing from these fictional precedents, made the horrifying concept tangible and demonstrated an adaptive intelligence that transcended simple minds. My first act was to consolidate power. My father's demise had left a vacuum, a potential bloody scramble for power among the remaining firsts. I crushed dissent swiftly, decisively, and then restructured our ancient bloodlines into a cohesive, functional empire. I, the High Lord, the Queen, sat at its apex, the undeniable sovereign. Beneath me, the ancient firsts became my nobles and advisors, overseeing vast regional covens. Soldier vampires formed the backbone of our enforcement, augmented by knights who acted as a unified military, separate from individual covens, ensuring loyalty directly to the crown. The weakest, the covens of failures, were relegated to distant, less critical roles. Their very existence, a warning against inadequacy. We became a royal coven, ruling over all others, with hidden agents and charmed familiars infiltrating human society at every level, laying the groundwork for total control. This consolidation and restructuring of vampire society was vital for my global success, preventing internal conflict and creating an efficient, unified force for the subjugation of humanity. Threads of control. Weaving the global web, global subjugation was not achieved through brute force alone. It was a symphony of ancient power and modern cunning. My dominate was my primary instrument, allowing me to control actions, alter memories, and force others to act not of their own volition. With a mere glance, a whispered word, or through the irresistible voice. I turned world leaders into puppets, brilliant scientists into unwitting collaborators, and powerful media moguls into unwitting propagandists. The range of mind control abilities at my disposal, from telepathic hypnosis to brainwashing and subtle emotion manipulation, ensured no mind was truly free, no thought beyond my reach. I leveraged the human fascination with the supernatural, a pervasive element across cultures and throughout history. I allowed controlled vampire subcultures to flourish, even encouraging blood donors who believed they were part of a harmless lifestyle, unaware they were merely part of the larger harvest. Their own innate desire for meaning and purpose, their psychological need for comfort in an uncertain world, was twisted to serve my ends. This exploitation of human subcultures and psychological vulnerabilities proved to be a particularly insidious and modern form of control, demonstrating the depth of my strategic thinking beyond simple coercion. The true genius lay in subversion. Why destroy what could be controlled? I infiltrated the very supernatural bureaucracies that once sought to contain entities like us, turning them into extensions of my will. Agencies akin to the Federal Bureau of Control, tasked with containing paranatural events, or the Department of Diachronic Operations, which once sought to bring back magic, became my hidden hands. managing what they now perceived as paranormal events, which, in truth, meant managing humanity itself. Governments, once bastions of human power, became mere administrative branches of my burgeoning empire. Organizations like FEDRA, originally conceived as disaster response agencies, were repurposed to enforce constant surveillance and hard labor on the populace, their infrastructure now serving my purpose. The concept of THRUSH, a technological hierarchy for the removal of undesirables and the subjugation of humanity, became my guiding principle, a chillingly accurate description of my dominion. The media, that fickle beast, was tamed with subtle suggestion and charmed agents. I controlled narratives, shaping public perception, ensuring that any whispers of dissent or true understanding of their predicament were drowned out by manufactured distractions. The newspeak of their own making became their mental cage, controlling the very possibility of subversive thoughts. My agents infiltrated global finance, controlling the flow of resources and ensuring economic dependency, leaving no avenue for independent resistance. This systematic infiltration and subversion of existing human systems, rather than overt conquest, proved to be a sophisticated, long-term strategy that leveraged human infrastructure against them, ensuring a stable and pervasive control. The human farms were the heart of my new world order. They were not crude slaughterhouses, but meticulously designed holding pens where human blood is turned into more food for the undead monsters, known as ticks. Though I preferred the term bloodstock, here, humans were corralled like livestock, their lives managed for optimal blood production. Advanced technology, their own creation, became their ultimate enslaver. Electronic chips embedded beneath their skin allowed for constant tracking and monitoring, akin to the mass surveillance of 1984 or the panopticon of freedom wars. Automated systems, drawing inspiration from robots designed for forced labor, managed their daily routines, ensuring efficiency and minimizing direct vampire oversight. This was the ultimate mass social engineering, predicting and controlling human behavior to ensure a constant, predictable harvest. The detailed operation of these farms, combining biological management with advanced surveillance and automation, illustrated the chilling pragmatism of my reign. It highlighted the ironic use of human technology against them, turning their innovations into tools of their own enslavement, and demonstrated a sophisticated, long-term resource strategy that surpassed any crude, short-sighted predation. The folly of resistance. Hunters and their demise they came, as they always do. The self-proclaimed vampire slayers, often swarming our nascent online communities with hate mail. The redeemers with their blend of modern tech and ancient magic, seeking to put to rest what they deemed unnatural. The witch hunt mages, specialized in counter magic and combat tactics against magical users. Even the remnants of political ideologues, clinging to their outdated notions of freedom, attempted to stir a rebellion. They wielded their wooden stakes, garlic, silver bullets, and holy water. Their vampire hunting kits like relics from a forgotten age. Some even tried to pretend to be a vampire, a pathetic mimicry of true power, alienating themselves from both sides in their desperate gambit. Their missing persons reports and unexplained deaths were but faint echoes of their futile struggle, quickly absorbed into the background noise of a world no longer their own. The narrative of these encounters consistently established a clear contrast between the hunters, traditional and even their modern but fundamentally limited approaches, and my own evolved, comprehensive dominion. Their efforts, however valiant, were destined to fail against a foe that understood not just their weaknesses, but the very fabric of their society. My strategies for their defeat were multi-layered and devastatingly effective. I exploited their weaknesses with surgical precision. Their reliance on traditional methods, while effective against lesser vampires, was laughably inadequate against my amplified powers. their predictable patterns of investigation and attack, their human vulnerabilities, emotions, morality, and a fundamental inability to grasp the true scale of my control, were all points of leverage. They sought individual monsters. I had built an empire. My superior intelligence and planning were paramount. My ability to perceive Shatterpoint's critical vulnerabilities in events, objects, and even the very fabric of their organizations allowed me to dismantle their efforts before they could coalesce. I knew where to strike, when to retreat, and how to turn their strengths into their undoing. Technological countermeasures were deployed against their own advancements. Their surveillance networks, designed to expose, were often co-opted and turned against them, feeding them misinformation or leading them into traps. Psychological warfare was a favored weapon. My mastery of mind control allowed me to sow discord within their ranks, turning trusted allies into paranoid enemies, or simply breaking their will until they became compliant shells. Some were made to believe they had succeeded, only to find their victories were carefully orchestrated illusions. Others were driven to madness, their minds shattered by the impossible reality they faced. Crucially, my vast network allowed for infiltration and preemption. My hidden agents and charmed familiars, embedded deep within human society, gathered intelligence, allowing me to neutralize threats before they even materialized. I knew their plans, their movements, their very thoughts before they were fully formed. The most powerful vampire hunters, those who truly posed a threat, were often dealt with quietly, efficiently, and without fanfare, their disappearances adding to the growing list of unexplained deaths that only fueled the public's manufactured anxieties. The ultimate fate of these hunters varied, but the outcome was always the same. Their resistance crumbled. Some were assimilated, their wills broken and their bodies turned into compliant servants, their knowledge now serving my empire. Others faced psychological torment, trapped in their own minds, forever reliving their failures. The most defiant, those whose spirits could not be broken, often found themselves becoming part of the bloodstock. Their potent vita a final ironic contribution to the very system they fought to destroy. Their efforts, while momentarily disruptive, ultimately served only to reinforce the absolute dominance of my new world order. Conclusions. My reign is absolute, a testament to the enduring power of our kind, and the chilling pragmatism required for true survival. The era of haphazard predation is over. In its place stands a meticulously managed global system, a testament to my foresight and dominion. Humanity, once a chaotic, dwindling resource, is now a thriving, controlled reservoir, ensuring the perpetual sustenance and growth of the modern-day vampire community. The Transylvanian problem has been solved, not through coexistence, but through a chillingly efficient form of resource management. The world has been reshaped, its institutions co-opted, its people managed with a blend of ancient power and modern technology. The foolish resistance of vampire hunters, with their outdated methods and limited understanding, proved utterly futile against a force that understood the true nature of power, not just over flesh, but over minds, information, and the very fabric of society. My father's legacy, once a mere ambition of colonization, has been transcended. I have not merely invaded, I have integrated, optimized, and ultimately, perfected our place at the apex of the planetary ecosystem. The sanguine reign is eternal, a stable, efficient, and horrifyingly beautiful new world order.